Are you tired of using your entire hand to play a modern World of Warcraft class? Is reading proving challenging because words are just random assortment of squiggly lines that make no sense? Barb shot into Bestial Wrath? How does that even make sense? How can a barbed shot be inside of a Bestial Wrath? They're just pixels! Then, World of Warcraft Midnight has the right class for you. Beast Mastery Hunter has been reworked to prove to everyone that the game can be played with your monitor turned off. Jokes aside, there is a serious discord around the complexity or lack thereof for a lot of the classes, and we won't dive into that at the moment, but we'll talk about the new Beast Mastery Hunter coming in Midnight with everything that changed for it, because a lot of it did. Thank you to our patrons for supporting our content and making these videos possible. We wouldn't be able to be here without your generosity. If you find these videos useful, fun, or even downright hilarious, consider going to patreon.com/Marcelian&Flame, and you can also get your very own customized wallpaper with your favorite character on it. Fancy that! A lot has changed for Beast Mastery, and I will give you my best honest impressions of it at the end, at least for this early version of the alpha. So let's look at the basics right now. In Midnight, Beast Mastery largely retains its identity by being extremely beast focused, funny, with an assortment of summoned pets that deal all the mayhem. Your main damage comes from your big spender, kill command, which makes your pets do exactly that. Additionally, Cobra Shot is a single target spender of your focus that has baked in cooldown reduction for your kill commands, but also can be talented into reducing the cooldown of your main focus generator as well. Multi-shot is now gone and replaced with a new ability called Wild Thrash that makes your beasts deal a burst of AoE damage on an 8-second cooldown. The talents that would augment multi-shot into giving your pets AoE damage, aka Beast Cleave and the like, now work for your Wild Thrash, giving you Beast Cleave for 8 seconds. This means you will need to press Wild Thrash on cooldown now, so you have permanent AoE output. Barb Shot remains your focus generator and takes on a new role in Midnight. Most notably, it will no longer make your pets frenzy anymore, meaning there is no maintaining 3 stacks of Barb Shot for your pet's damage output. This is a pretty significant gameplay change, one that I welcome since it's not a very interesting mechanic to undergo if it can be replaced with something ideally better. A few other Barb Shot interactions are also going away, such as the cooldown reduction it used to offer to your big offensive button, Bestial Wrath. This in turn gets a 2-point talent node that reduces its 1.5 minute baseline cooldown by 30 seconds per point invested. At the moment, the frenzy attack speed buff Barb Shot used to give is also a 2-point talent node that just passively accomplishes the same thing. Overall, Barb Shot now simply adds bleed damage and can trigger your pet's special attack if Brutal Companion is talented, which remains to be seen. But it does have one additional effect. For that effect, we need to talk about your remaining offensive cooldown, Bloodshed. You heard me. Call of the Wild has seen 2 glorious expansions and has now retired, and some of its effects baked into Bloodshed, which now still does a powerful bleed on one enemy with a higher chance of summoning Dire Beasts. Dire Beasts are still a big part of your design, with a larger focus on your Barb Shot bleed from what it's looking like at the moment. That's mainly because the former capstone upgrades for Call of the Wild will now upgrade Bloodshed instead. Bloody Frenzy makes Bloodshed buff Barb Shot bleed damage to tick 100% faster for 12 seconds. If you end up playing this in AoE, which I doubt, you will likely want to have a few Barb Shots out before activating Bloodshed for some serious bleed damage, but it's likely you'll just be playing this in raids and on bosses, period. More likely, you'll get Wild Instincts in AoE, where your pet stomps will apply Barb Shot to a target that doesn't have Barb Shot already, and of course this Barb Shot does not trigger the stomp. This happens outside Bloodshed, if intended, and it will make spreading Barb Shots not require tap targeting, or rather any kind of player input outside just sending all your charges of Barb Shot out as soon as you can. A few notes about the hero talents as well. Starting with Dark Ranger, you will get Black Arrow as an additional ability since Kill Shot is now a marksmanship only ability. Additionally, the Dark Hound talent called Corpse Collar now will interact with your Dire Beasts, giving you a chance to summon a Dark Hound instead of a Dire Beast. There are a few other slightly changed notes that will see some more iterations, I imagine, but nothing that changes your gameplay outside Wailing Dead. Because Call of the Wild has been removed, Bloodshed will now proc your Withering Fire, and for this particular talent will also summon a Dark Hound and transform into Wailing Arrow. This is cool and super thematic, and surprising that it didn't happen sooner for Dark Ranger. Wailing Arrow is a castable ability that does shadow damage in AoE and silences enemies, a super thematic ability for Dark Ranger, Banshee and Sylvanas themed fantasies. Pack Leader also sees some minor changes. The most notable are actually two. It doesn't seem like you can accelerate the rate at which your beasts spawn by pressing more kill commands, them being a fixed 30-second spawn rate now, and the capstone is now Stampede. Casting Bestial Wrath will empower your next kill command to call out Stampede. This is really cool thematically, but does have the restrictions of your beast spawning in a line from you to the target. I am 100% sure this will change, since the concept of creating a line between 2 points to ensure proper output seems a bit too advanced for BM hunters and the philosophy behind the new class reworks. This sounds like nothing other than sarcasm, but I am 100% serious. Any type of gameplay system that has you do any sort of advanced intellectual exercises like the geometry of a line hitting 2 points will likely be snuffed out, judging by how spec design has continued through this alpha. That aside, the individual beasts that are summoned gain new functionalities, with the bear summoning 2 dire beasts as well, the boar stacking your cobra shot stacks even higher, and the wyvern giving you a larger DPS buff. Rest of the talents are passive bleed and dire beast buffs for both hero talents in general. The playstyle actually hasn't changed at all. If anything, it has been simplified. You still prioritize kill command over everything and spend your barb shot charges to deal damage and increase the chances of dire beast spawns. With no more cooldown reduction for your Bestial Wrath, your offensive buttons are pretty fixed and synced all the time. The mini games of Barb Shot Extending Frenzy, reducing the cooldown on Bestial Wrath, stacking a crit buff on you are gone, and those are just passives that are oxymoronically active on you at all times. Your main goal in single target will likely be to not waste any resources, whether it be the focus you have or charges of kill command and Barb Shot, while pressing Bestial Wrath and Bloodshed on cooldown. Pack Leader adds the extra concept of positioning yourself so Stampede hits as many enemies as possible, giving you one extra thing to do outside hitting training dummies. While Dark Ranger actually adds 2 buttons to your already criminally empty action bars with Black Arrow and Wailing Arrow, which spice up your rotation a bit. And by spicing up, I mainly mean adding a bit of pepper to a bland, slightly salty and lukewarm soup. I do have to mention that Wild Thrash feels good to press, as opposed to multi-shot, giving you a more visceral feel of what you are making your pets do. I tweaked a bit with the builds, but my main focus has been Dire Beasts, mostly because the left side is also the AoE-centric side of the talents, and most changes and interactions seem to be around Dire Beasts, and we could only really test dungeons at this point. If anything, Dire Beasts seem likely they should be central talents, since both hero talents want you to play with Dire Beasts, and the only relevant synergies you seem to have are with Dire Beasts summoning through bleeds. We don't have Apex talents for Beast Mastery at this time, so cannot really test those, but if you wanted to avoid them, you can actually get all capstones, which is likely the intentions of the design. If we were to subtract the 4 talent points that we would otherwise be spending on Apex talents, we would have to choose 2 of the 3 capstones, since the 2 pointer nodes leading to them act as managing gates to balance the point distribution. I do have to say that this build right here seems like what you would normally do if it wasn't for the fact that Savagery does the exact same thing Killer Instinct does, but better and with only 1 point invested instead of 2. Both give you 10% damage on kill command, but Savagery also gives you 2 seconds duration on barb shot. So you would take a point from Killer Instinct and put it into Savagery, leaving you with 1 point to either spend on Hunter Spray or Brutal Companion. Both debatable choices since we don't really know how good our pet special attacks are, and seems like it would be better spent somewhere in the middle instead, maybe even on war orders. Moving to AoE talent builds, you free up about 3 points from Beast Cleave, Kill Cleave and Dire Cleave, since Wild Thrash is mandatory for progressing to Dire Beasts, a system you cannot really play without, at least for Dark Ranger. And this frees up 3 points to maybe put into Focus Management, Cobra Shot amps, since you will likely want to do more kill commands and Cobra Shots in single target, and if you go down to Piercing Fangs and Bloody Frenzy, your Dire Beast gameplay takes a huge hit. Depending on the tuning, it might even be likely you won't be able to play this build, since no matter how I slice BM, you want Dire Beasts more than anything, at least from an intuitive build crafting point of view. I'm sure the big brain hunters will math out all of this and come up with the best single target build possible, but for the average player it is not intuitive at all to go down the right side of the talent tree at this point, and that's seemingly the scope and philosophy of the new classes. And with this, we can slide into the final impressions section. You may have noticed me being snarky at times throughout the video. That's not necessarily because there is this divide now between the players that like the complexity of the present WoW and the new players that want to get rid of it, but likely because of what the simplifying the game does as collateral damage. The fantasy of BM is definitely retained, and visually it is the BM Hunter I kind of always wanted to play, having strong pets, summoning the zoo, and making them tear my enemies to pieces. In reality, everything is so passive, and no matter what talents I pick, how many Dire Beast nodes I ignore, my rotation just doesn't change anything. So all of this fantasy is just that, a fantasy in my brain that I imagine is happening around me, because at no point am I making a conscious decision to summon a Dire Beast, am I making a decision to make it deal damage, what beasts I summon, how much damage they do, how I spread my bleeds, and so on. I support the simplifying of the game, and maybe Beast Mastery is a good time to make this point since we don't really want to make this video, but the simplification can be taken a bit too far, and now I feel we have reached this point. There is a difference between the spec being simple and easy to pick up, which has been a staple of Blizz design that put the company on the global gaming map, but there is no real mastery at this point, at least that is obvious, and the spec pretty much plays itself with fewer buttons, interactions, and depth than even classic World of Warcraft had. I am looking forward to see how the response to this is, and would recommend you watch our Devourer video, the new Demon Hunter spec, where the simplicity is done right. It has very few buttons, very few interactions, but your decisions actually matter in your rotation.